Hi and welcome to my live session on Behance. And my name is Matthijs Klaasner and I'm a teacher in the Netherlands at the Grafisch Lyceum Rotterdam. And I'm an animation teacher, so I like to do stuff with Adobe Animate, After Effects. Lots of the Adobe tools come in hand while teaching media design and animation. So let's get started with one of my favorite animations tools, and that is Adobe Animate. So without further ado, or maybe let's have a look at the socials. If you want to follow me on these social media platforms, basically look for my last name Klaasner and you'll figure it out. If you want to know more about all the Adobe stuff, tutorials in Dutch and in English, you can find more on my YouTube channel called Soft Talk. Talking about software is the thing that I like to do. So let's get started with actually what we've got planned for you today. And let's see if the software doesn't fail on me. This is basically what we are going to do during this 45-minute session. Don't know, I haven't timed it yet. Hey Lisa, glad you made it. But this is actually what we are going to make in this session, a walk cycle. Probably that's my humor. I wanted to make a walk and a cycle, a bicycle. So this is what we are going to try to make. Hey Matt, welcome in this session. So let's switch to Adobe Animate. I already prepared a bit of the scene and I will walk you through it. So this is something that I got in mind for, let's say, Instagram. This is a scene with a width and a height of 1080 pixels. So if we don't select anything and take a look at the properties, we will see it's 1080 width and 1080 height, 25 frames per second, because it's going to be an animation. And I live in Europe, and in Europe we've got 25 frames in a second. And it helps me quite a bit in the timeline as well underneath in Animate, because over here it says 1 second, 25 frames. And while making a walk cycle, I always try to use this legenda, if you will, with my students. So there are several poses in a walk cycle, certain contact moments when your feet hit the ground. And I've calculated them on 25 frames. So with 25 frames in a second, that helps you quite a bit in terms of my logic in the timeline, if you will. So I've already prepared a little overlay on top, but mainly the main character, this dude, is something that I want to make movement in, and he needs to walk continuously. And the beauty of that in Animate is that you can turn everything that you want to make loopable into a symbol, and then it will loop automatically. So that's pretty brilliant actually. But in this case, everything is still separate. We can do quite painful things to the character. So we need to attach all these layers, all these elements together in order to make the mechanics work in the character. Okay. So the thing that you need to know before I continue is that every single element, every single limb of the character is a symbol as well. So I want to play with animation, and one of the basic rules that I teach my my students is that everything that wants to have that needs to have movement needs to become a symbol, and then you can add a motion tween and start animating. But basically, when you want to work with tweens, hey Joseph, cool to see you here as well. You need to have symbols in there. So let's have a look in the library, and I already have structured it pretty neatly. The upper arm, upper leg, all makes sense, and the word wheel over here, that's the wheel of the bike. That's the one and only Dutch word in there, but that's something for later. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is select everything in this keyframe. So all these symbols in there are selected, and now I can convert everything together into one symbol as well. So just a right click and then convert it into a symbol, because the whole structure that I've selected right now needs to be loopable. So everything is going to be in one single symbol. So convert to symbol. And there are 3 flavors to choose from: movie clip, button, and graphic. And I mostly tend to use a graphic symbol while making an animation. Of course, it doesn't make any sense if we're going to turn it into a button. And of course, there's a movie clip as well, which comes in hand in one of my later sessions when I'm going to do something more with interaction, maybe next week or the week after that. In this case, I'm going to focus on animation, and then I'd like to use the graphic symbol. Of course, this is the dude. Okay. Hey G, welcome. Glad you made it to the show. Everything is going brilliant, thank you. I hope with you as well. So everything now is in this dude symbol, and while having a look at the chat, I forgot to tell you that I double clicked on the character, and now I'm inside of the symbol, if you will. So there's a scene, an upper level, and well, we're on the lower deck right now on the dude, one layer underneath, and everything in here, every single object needs to be in a layer as well. So that's another thing. If you want to make movement, everything needs to be a symbol and needs to be in its own layer. So let's select everything apart from the bike. See if it's all attached. Okay, perfect. So now when I right click this character, or this selection actually, I can tell Adobe Animate to distribute it to layers, and then it will follow the order in which it is now on the stage, and I can distribute it. And now I got a wonderful pile of layers over here. So let's zoom out a bit over here to see my character. My bike is now on top, but the rest is pretty much okay. I think so. I've shifted the bike on the lowest layer. There we go. So this is basically what we need to do. So selecting every single element will allow you to distribute it over layers. And now we are almost there to start building a structure and starting to animate. There's one thing that I've done for mainly every single limb, but I left out a few to discuss it with you. When I'm selecting my upper arm, the right upper arm of the character, then I need to go to the free transform tool, because there's a little dot in the center of this object, and that's the point of rotation. So now when I will animate the arm and I rotate the arm, this can be pretty painful for the character, if you can imagine. So we need to keep the shoulder in place. So let's do Command Z or Control Z or Control Z. And with the free transform tool selected, I can move this little dot over here, and I think that is a nice point to rotate from with the shoulder. There we go. And I think that looks pretty cool. And I need to do the same thing actually for every single symbol in here, but I have done most of them. So free transform tool, this needs to be a point in the elbow. There we go. And I think the arm is or the hand has already got its rotation point over here. So basically that's done for mainly every single element in here. The hip rotates from here, and the lower leg, it's got its rotation point on the knee, obviously. And if we take a close look to the foot, it's got its rotation point on the ankle. I could go more in detail and also animate the toes, but I don't want to make it a very long session, because it's quite a few things that I wanted to do today. So that's basically it. Creating all the elements, all the symbols, making sure that every rotation point is on the correct location, and now we need to build the structure in order to make it rotate and everything moves along. Because normally in real life when I move my upper arm, my lower arm will follow, and the idea of that is the parent and child structure. So if I move the parent, the upper arm, the child, the lower arm will follow, and the hand will follow, and the fingers will follow, etc. Maybe like real life, when you as a parent ask your kids to follow, they will always listen. Probably not, but in Animate, the children will listen. So we need to create a structure in here, and that's a hierarchy. So what we need to do is switch over to the hierarchy view over here in the timeline. So that's the parenting view, and this little button needs to be pressed in order to open up this little interface over here. And then we need to figure out what we as animators want to have as a main object. And I always tend to select the body, because that's the largest part of the character to select and move along. So this is going to be my main parent, if you will. The upper arm will be connected to the body. So what I need to do is the right upper arm needs to be connected to the body. So when I select this parenting rectangle thingy and drag it to the layer of the body, then these two are connected. And I always like to select objects and see if they highlight over here, because the right lower arm needs to be connected to the upper arm. So we're going to do that again. And finally, the hand needs to be connected to the lower arm. And when I've got an element correct, then I want to move it aside and see if everything will follow, and the hand and everything does what it needs to do. So this part is pretty good. Then we will continue to do the other parts as well. So this is the right upper leg, which needs to be connected to, in this case, let's see how I've built the structure. So in this case, it needs to be connected directly to the body. So the left upper leg needs to be connected to the body. The lower leg to the upper leg, and of course the foot. And this is mainly also the reason why I always ask my students to name their layers correctly, because then it makes sense, right and left, and it's pretty helpful. So the right upper leg needs to be connected to the body as well. And I think you'll get the idea. Hope it's not too boring, or else let me know something in the chat. Of course, the head needs to be connected. And it's always good to use the chat, and I know that you're still around. And finally, there's an arm in the background which isn't going to be animated, because I'm going to leave that on the bike, but it needs to be connected. So let's see if we click only on this little button over here, and then I can see through my my objects, and then I can see that there is another arm as well, but I need to have this one to the body. Actually, this is all left. I didn't make the names correctly. Darn. And then over here. So this is my main structure, and probably everything will follow along. So if I'm moving the character, every single element will move, and that's my way of checking if everything is still working. So everything is connected right now in the parenting view, a very important step, and which will make a lot of things easier in the animation process. So let's have a look again on my legenda down below. So we've got a few contact poses in a walk cycle. The contact poses are the moments where the feet touch the floor, and in between you've got a moment where your body goes downwards, passes, all the limbs will pass, and then we've got a high moment, contact again, and that's the thing that we're going to do twice. And I've always, I think I've got this picture from the Animator Survival Guide. I don't know really for sure. I'm using it for a long time already with my students. But in here we can see the moments as well in that 1 second. So this is my little note which I'm going to use quite a bit in the next half an hour in order to make it move. So, like I said, it's 25 frames per second. That's my my settings for this project, and I'm gonna make frames over here at the end of my my second, or at the start of the next second, and I want to create a frame in here. There we go. And now I know that this is my time to create the animation in. It is the same as in here, so let's get started with the animation. I'm gonna lock the bike layer. I've seen that there is a layer over here. Not much happening in there. Let's see if I select everything and then create a motion tween for my character. And there are still a few elements who are not, which are not connected, converted to a symbol yet. These two layers, but all the other layers do have their symbols, so it will convert all these layers into a motion tween, which is brown, yellowish, or gold, if you will. And I think I'm gonna delete these two layers. These need to be attached to my bike. Let's lock those. Okay. So all these elements need to be animated. And actually, what we're going to do is we are going to copy the poses from over here. What probably will be a nice thing to do is get a little guide layer to see where the feet will touch the floor. So I'm gonna go to views and get my rulers, because from a ruler I can drag a little guideline, and probably this is where the feet live. Okay, still with me, 32 participants, 34, wow, and counting. Glad you've made it. So we're gonna copy every single pose in the walk cycle, but in the end, this frame, the contact frame at the end, is exactly the same as the contact frame at the start of the animation. So to be sure that everything is correct at the end of the animation, I want to create a keyframe at the end to make sure that when I'm making it into a loop, it will always make sure that there's no stitch in there. We won't see the hiccups. So that's pretty cool. And for me, that's good. I actually bought a new bike recently, so I'm really outside quite a lot. It's an e-bike because I've passed 40, so it's e-biking for me now. What I'm going to do is start with the contact pose in the middle, because that's actually swapping the legs. I think I'm going too fast. Let's delete those keyframes at first, because I didn't really make the pose correctly at the start. So what I want to have is the arm in the first frame a little bit more upwards. I'm not gonna pay attention to the arm in the background. And let's move this a bit aside. And this leg is a little bit more in the depth, so it can be higher. I think this is a nice starting point, and then I'm gonna create the keyframes. And luckily, because of the fact that more and more animators are using their tablets, I'm actually using a mouse, but I rather like to use my tablet. But then I'm not in front of the camera. While working with a tablet, these buttons, these new buttons, I think almost here they are over here in the timeline, are really good to use while working with a pen instead of shortcuts. So let's create in frame number 13 a contact moment. So for the ease of it, I'm gonna select every single layer and create a keyframe as well in there, and just swap the positions of the arms and the legs. And then there will be a first view of the always looking interesting while doing this. The first view of the walk cycle. So this feet needs to be touching the ground. I'm not going to pay too much attention to the details of it. And then this arm needs to be somewhere over here. And that's why I use this template, so I can have a little peek and see where the arms need to be. But now when I'm doing this, we can see the character walking, or sliding actually. And then I'm gonna focus on the low poses and the passing and the high poses. Let's do the passing over here in frame number 7. Let's create a keyframe for that. And then probably the legs aren't too bad right now, but the arm needs to be pointing at the floor. And with a normal walk cycle, the other arm needs to be somewhere pointing downwards as well. There we go. And literally step by step, you can add more details in here while you're working on it. So in here, frame 19, that's also the same passing moment. So we can either copy the frames, or probably it won't be exactly the same in real life. So I always try to make those poses by hand. Again, create a keyframe. Select this arm again, and it needs to point downwards. Something like that. Have a little step back and see what we're doing. I think it's okay. While working with a walk cycle, I always try to let the timeline loop and see it over and over again a few times. And in this case, I would like to turn on the loop function. And loop is actually in Dutch loop, and lopen is walking. So I'm going to turn on loop. Now you've learned a Dutch word. I'm going to extend this loop time over here and make it one frame shorter, because we've got 25 frames for the complete loop, but actually this frame is exactly the same as the first frame. So if you're going to let that loop, it will have a little hiccup at the end of the second, because there are the same frames right after each other. And if we are now doing this, it will do it perfectly. But it's still some kind of ice skating-ish movement. It's not really there yet, because we don't have all the other poses. Still going good? Let me know in the chat. Let's do the low pose. In this case, we are bending the knees a bit, and the pelvis and the body will shift downwards just a little bit. And it's also depending on the speed. If you're really running, probably the motion will be higher, the movement. But in this case, it's just a little walk with the bike. And let's add a keyframe in here as well on frame 4. So in here, the low pose. Let's select everything on the timeline and shift it downwards a bit. And now the body will move downwards. And then it's exactly putting the feet and arms in the correct position. We are creating this one at the moment. It's quite a strong walk. So let's move the arm a little bit forward. And it's always good to exaggerate a bit. We are going to lift the front leg just a bit. So knee a little bit backwards. Lower leg. Let's rise it a bit. And again, the arm in the background is going to stay where it is. And then the leg in the background needs to go forward a little bit, so we can bend the leg just a bit more, something like this. Now it's getting pretty active. And let's do the same over here, but then the other way around. It's going to be the high pose. So in here, I think it was frame number 10. Yeah, frame number 10 it is. We're going to create another set of keyframes. And in this case, I've used the shift and the down arrows on my keyboard just once to lower the whole structure. And in this case, I want to make sure that the body rises. Shift one arrow, and then it will make its feet loose from the ground. And let's have a little peek in here. So the front leg now needs to be way more forward. And the leg in the back needs to be something like this. Stretch the leg a bit more. And I was a little bit too enthusiastic with shift 1 up. So let's move it downwards a little bit. And now we've got this moment ready to roll. Yeah, cool. When you're exaggerating in an animation, it's always nice to have a look at elements like this. So if I want to move the arm just a little bit further and again a bit further, I can let this hand move as well to have this little animation. Cool. And then we're gonna do the opposite. Let's do every single step one more time. So we're gonna do the low pass right after the contact pose. So that's frame number 16. Let's create another set of keyframes in here. And while making those keyframes every single time, I just make sure that every single layer has got its keyframe in here, which makes sense. While doing this, front leg needs to be a little bit there. Let's see where the hand is. A little bit further. Downwards. And in here, let's see which frame it is. Well, I think you got the idea. It's the 22. So just shift it one frame further. There we go, everything selected, making a keyframe again. And let's create the final frame. The high pass. So now the front leg. Let's see, left upper leg. The front leg needs to be a little bit more over there. Let's rise this knee over here a bit more, lower the leg. Something like that. I think you've got the idea. The shoulders wobble a bit. Yeah, indeed. But I think we need to have a little bit more time than just the 45 minutes. In order to make this work, and put more and more detail in there. But this is basically the way to go to create your walk cycle, and then in depth you can go. And there's a little shift in here. I think I made a mistake in the legs, but I think you got the idea, and I will post the completed file later on. But the idea is that everything in here needs to be looping for quite a bit. Well, let's say we're going to put this on Instagram. Then it needs to play a continuous loop for quite several seconds. And luckily we've created the symbol in here. And we've got our main timeline, our main scene over here. Our symbol has a length of 25 frames, but in here I've got a scene 1 with just 1 frame in there, and that's way too short, way too little for the animation. So if I would export this through the media encoder and create a movie out of it, I will just get 1 frame. Although I've made several frames in there, I just will have 1 frame. So what I need to do in this scene number 1, I need to extend the whole timeline and give it more frames. Oh yes, it's a lot of work. So I'm gonna add a frame, and now it will let you see the movement of the character for 4 seconds. So this is the complete loop of the motion inside of the keyframe of the symbol. But if you remember, we've got 25 frames and I made it loop until 24 within the symbol. So with a double click we are in the symbol again. So let's say everything is cool, everything is finished, finalized, and all the hiccups are not anymore in the animation. And then what you need to do is get rid of the final keyframes. So let's delete those and make sure that our complete walk, just the 2 steps, ends at frame number 24. So the way that I like to do that is select all the frames of all the layers in frame number 24. and just add a little keyframe and don't do any animation in there. And when those keyframes are in place, in frame number 24 in this case, I can select all the frames in frame number 25 and delete those, because I know we've got our fixed positions over here with use of those keyframes. So let's do a right click and remove all the frames in frame number 25, and don't do that before you've made the keyframes in frame 24. And in this case, it will make the loop better in this animation. My loop is still on, turned on. There we go. It's quite a nice dance he does. So now, when you want to export out this this animation, you can go to File and Export, and then there are several options which you can choose from in order to get your video. Most students think that I need to export it out as a movie, but that will give me an SWF file, a shockwave flash file. But I really want to have a video, an MP4 if you will. So in this case, I'm going to go for the export video media, and could also turn it into a GIF or a GIF. Still not sure how to pronounce that. This will give you the same settings as our original file that we started 35 minutes ago, and it will convert into an H.264 file, which is perfect. And of course, I will need to make sure that it ends up in the correct folder. It's there. And it will start up the media encoder and render out the video directly. So probably the media encoder will take some time to fire up. So let's go over what we've done in the last 35-40 minutes. Important is that when you want to make an animation, when you want to make something move, it needs to be converted into a symbol. Also, while creating the character, every single limb that you want to move needs to be on its own layer. Also a very important thing. And then you can play with the motion tween and start your animation. Also, what we've done is created this hierarchy over here with all the layers to make sure that everything is attached correctly and that you've got your mechanics correct in the animation. And the hierarchy view is over here underneath this button. Very important to do that correctly, or else it will turn up into a mess. And then finally, we will have our animation done. It's already processed, so let's open up the video over here. Oh, it needs to start. Now it's done. Let's open it up. And then this is, yeah, the leg needs to be have a little closer look. But I've already got the one prepared that I did earlier. Let's see if it will open up. In this case, I've made a scene out of it for another fun project. So let's have a look. And in this case, everything is correctly. And then there's a bouncing ball as well. So I hope you liked the way that I told you how to create a walk cycle. Yeah, like I said, Adobe Animate is one of my favorite tools. Please give it a chance and create fun stuff of your own. Probably next week or the week after, I will be back and do something interactive with Animate, because that's also a very cool thing to do. Let's get some JavaScripting started. So going back to my slide deck, I really want to show you my socials again. So if you want to more of my my activities on Twitter, Facebook, Behance, which I am updating right now actually, so there's going to be more and more stuff on my Behance. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to contact me or let some questions know right now in the chat. And if not, thank you so much for watching. Really glad to see almost 60 attendees right now live. Very cool. Still very new for me to do a live session. So I'm glad you stuck with me and hope you've enjoyed yourself. And let's... Why not After Effects? That's also an option. Reverb mic. After Effects is also a very cool tool to animate in. I'd like to make a mixture of both. And I think, in my opinion, that the look and feel of an animation is different in Animate than in After Effects. But this could be easily done as well in After Effects. I just love Animate a little bit more than After Effects. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and hope to see you next time on Bēhance. Bye bye for now.